Man, listen, today we're going to be talking about 3 hot places to buy land or property in majority Black neighborhoods. But before we get started, help your girl reach 100,000 subscribers by clicking the like button and also hitting subscribe. Come on, what are you waiting on? Kiss the like button with your finger and hit subscribe. Now, when we think of gentrification, generally we think of people who move into a neighborhood who don't look like me and maybe don't look like you and push the other community residents out. When this happens, culture, community, and traditions sometimes become absolutely obsolete. But what if local residents who already live there are those who have generationally grown up in those places and spaces had the opportunity to make strategic investments in the neighborhood and have ownership and say so and have the future of their spaces look? Policy and development drive change in neighborhoods. And if we can understand the policy that affects Black neighborhoods and also the development that will affect Black neighborhoods, then those of us with means and resources can get in with ownership and become the decision makers that drive not only change in our communities, but also cultivate generational wealth. Have you kissed the like button with your finger and hit subscribe yet? What are you waiting on? First up is Detroit, also known as Motor City, home of the Detroit Lions and Detroit Pistols. Shout out to the Washington Nationals and shout out to the Washington Wizards, by the way. Detroit is also home of Motown Records, R.I.P. Berry Gordy. As of today, in the state of Michigan, specifically Wayne County, you can buy land for as cheap as $2,000, which is a steal considering the development which is happening in that city. For example, Ford Motor Company purchased Michigan Central Station, which had been vacant for 30 years, and they plan to develop nearly 30 acres of land, and they will call this land Ford's Courttown Campus. This campus will staff some of Ford's employees and also a maker space, which will be a leader in the innovation around the automobile industry, specifically autonomous driving. There's also the 70-acre plot, which Amazon acquired and is currently building a $400 million distribution center. This project will create 1,200 full-time and part-time jobs in which workers will be paid at minimum $15 minimum wage. Now, we know that that is not enough, but for some legislators, it's a start to creating jobs in an economically depressed but still vibrant city. Speaking of Amazon, Amazon is slated to complete the build of 5, not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Amazon fulfillment or distribution centers in the city of Detroit by 2021 or early 2022. Some of these fulfillment centers will replace old horse racetracks and also the Pontiac Silverdome. Now, as part of Amazon's deal to buy this property for pennies on a dollar, literally for cheap, Detroit's legislators have said that they have to build a $7 million public transportation transit center so that employees at this distribution center won't have to spend their hard-earned money just to get to and from work. So between the distribution centers, the fulfillment centers, and even the transit center, there's a lot of development going on in Motor City. And finally, there is Proposal Inn, which is a neighborhood improvement project designed to preserve 8,000 pre-identified homes and ensure that they are restored and introduced into the market to deserving Detroiters. Check out these zip codes right here when you're researching land or property opportunities in Detroit. The number 2 city is Baltimore, known for its delicious crab cakes, Baltimore Ravens. Also for its unique accent, they do not say Baltimore, they say Baltimore or something like that. And also known for Jess with the mess, Jess Hilarious, not only an Instagram comedian, but now on nationwide television, Baltimore's own Jess. Baltimore has been historically disinvested for a number of years. In fact, in Baltimore, you can find land for as cheap as $12,000. But before you go searching for those plots of land, it's important for you to consider some reintroduced legislation that was highly popular just several years ago. And that is Baltimore's $1 home program, which allows for long-term residents or residents that have lived in Baltimore for 15 continuous years to get access to homes for just $1 if they volunteer to rehab those homes and live in them. The legislative analyst said that more than 190,000 Baltimore residents would qualify for this program. 191,292 to be exact. Imagine if all of those individuals were able to buy a home for just $1. Critics of the program say that it probably won't work because the last legislation that offered this tremendous opportunity only got 200 vacant homes off of the market and into the home of Baltimore homeowners. And most of those homeowners were white. Now, city council members understand that Baltimore is minimally diverse. They would love for these $1 homes to get into Black hands. So currently the city council is restructuring that legislation in order to make it available. Cities that have had similar legislation include Philadelphia, which had a similar program, and over 2,300 people took advantage of the program. But still, when the city of Philly reflected back on the success of the program, what they found was the 2,300 people who took advantage of the program, ultimately, a fraction of them flipped those homes to enterprising developers who then sold those $1 homes for millions of dollars. I would say that it is important to watch this legislation because unlike years ago, there are residents that have become financially literate and may be more primed to take advantage of this $1 opportunity and potentially own property that could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars in the future. This is similar to historic legislation like the Homestead Act, which allowed for white citizens to squat on land, right, or sit on land for a number of years, and after they completed that responsibility, own the land and then pass it down from generation to generation to generation. So it'll be similar to buying a $1 home and passing it down from generation to generation to generation so that your great-great-grandkids can be like, hey, that $10 million house over there in Baltimore, it's mine. Now, while the council figures out whether it wants to re-engage this legislation, there are also a lot of interesting things happening around development in Baltimore. The state has awarded $63 million to 214 development projects. From turning vacant lots into schools or even affordable housing, there is plenty of opportunity in the city. Particularly, there is redevelopment happening around the University of Baltimore. Millions of dollars is being invested, and most surely there will be an ROI. Here are the funds and initiatives that you should research to see if there are opportunities there, again, to buy property at or around it, or buy land at or around them. The Baltimore Regional Neighborhood Initiative, Project Core, Strategic Demolition Fund, Community Legacy Fund, and Seed Community Anchor Institution Fund. Write down these zip codes when you're doing your research. Next up is Birmingham. That's how I envision their accents being. I know that Alabama don't always have Southern accents, but being a VA girl myself, I can't help but try to interpret or envision how their accent might be. You can find land in Birmingham for as cheap as $16,000. Specifically, there are development projects happening in Birmingham that are worth researching, including Southtown Court, which was recently demolished by the Housing Authority of Birmingham District. This project will redevelop 55 buildings, which house 455 now vacant units, and also 10 non-dwelling units in Southtown Court, which used to include a daycare and also a community building, will also be redeveloped. New development will include 280 affordable housing units, which will go to low income and also seniors in Birmingham, and also commercial space, which will be used for grocery stores, retail, and also hotels. Okay, hotel, motel, holiday, yeah. And also separately from Southtown Court, Birmingham has announced that $2 million will be dedicated to attracting national, regional, and even some local prominent grocery store chains to relocate to West Birmingham specifically in order to create more value for residents there. I know that legislation and development projects are highly controversial because usually they are aligned with displacement. But the purpose of this video is to make us aware of the opportunities that exist in majority Black spaces so we can pursue home ownership opportunities there. And if you already know residents who live there, here are some opportunities that may be available to them to have ownership. And let's say that you are a developer, but you are a benevolent developer who maybe grew up in these cities, in these spaces and places, and you know ways in which you can improve the health of community housing or community retail, right? Or even community hotel spaces in such a way where displacement doesn't occur, but the quality of living among the residents increases as a result. This is part 1 of a part 3 series. Stay tuned for part 2 next week. If you've made it this far, don't forget to kiss the like button with your finger and hit subscribe.